Just left the hospital. I was at the beach like 3 days ago, snorkeling and swimming around, and had a pretty big wave come and hit me in the back of the head, and it was like a really hard slap in the back of my head, and I've had some headaches and stuff since then. Anyway, doctor says he thinks that I might have had a mild concussion, nothing severe because my cognitive tests were all good, but I was just thinking, like, I'm here in Hawaii because I'm trying to get custody of my oldest daughter because her mother literally tried to sell her. As insane as that sounds, she took a video of her when she was completely naked around the age of like 2.5, 3 years old, sent it to a dude in California that she knew back when she literally used to work as an escort, and sent this video of my little girl to a man that had an issue with children in the past apparently, and sent a nude video of my little girl to him. So anyway, long story short, as I'm out here in Hawaii trying to make sure that nothing else crazy like that occurs. But at the hospital a minute ago, I was thinking, like, while they were doing the cognitive tests, I was like, who knows if something bad is wrong, because I have had headaches, which I never get. And I was kind of faced with the thought of, like, what if actually something actually is wrong with me? And like, it's, the chances are not zero that something bad could have occurred. And I was thinking, like, I'm out here basically alone, and if something happened to me and I was in bad shape and was admitted, and God forbid, like, I died, like, I would have died here alone, basically. I mean, I would have been surrounded by staff, but as far as like friends or family, I have none here. And even if I were on the mainland, like, my family and I aren't cool. My grandfather was an alcoholic, a really bad alcoholic, and he fucked up all of his kids. My mom was divorced 4 times, and on top of beating the shit out of me when I was a little kid, her dysfunction infected me. And so now, because of having her as I never knew my dad growing up, right? So she was my primary influence, unfortunately. And so now, as an adult, I've gravitated towards women that are fucked up like she was. And so all of my relationships have ended up just completely falling apart and being terrible. And my family and I aren't cool, because when I got old enough to kind of recognize the pattern of dysfunction and trauma that's in my family, none of them wanted to hear about it. And when I tried to, try to get my mom to apologize, or at least acknowledge that things weren't like they should have been when she used to beat the shit out of me when I was a kid. Matter of fact, one time when I was in like probably 7th grade, I was at my buddy's house, and his mom happened to be a teacher, not at our school, but she happened to be a teacher. And it was a pool party, right? And so after we had pizza or whatever, I took my shirt off. I was about to hop in the pool, and my back was just lit up. I had like welts all over my back, and his mom was like, "Sam, what happened?" And I was like, "Well, I got a spanking yesterday." And this was, 30-something years ago in West Texas. This is not like San Francisco today with some hyper-liberal mom being like, "Oh my God." This was West Texas 30 years ago. And this woman asked me if I wanted her to call the police. Of course, being that age, knowing that my family would hate me for doing it, I didn't tell her to call the cops, which in retrospect, I wish that I would have done that, because maybe that would have, straightened my mom up from doing what she did, because nothing changed. Not until I got to be about 14 years old, when she was beating the shit out of me, I balled my fist up to her. Even though I would have never hit her, I still balled my fist up to her, and even just the thought of that crossing her mind made her stop hitting me. But long story short is, when I tried to address the dysfunction in my family just basically just like didn't want to hear it, put their head in the sand. And so, like, I'm not close with any of my family members anymore, because I felt betrayed, honestly, that they would kind of take her side tacitly by not admitting that behavior isn't okay, to leave marks like bruises and welts all over your kid, which is objectively fucked up to do. But they couldn't bring themselves to admit that wasn't okay. So, long story short is that, we're not cool anymore, right? And because my mom has been my template for women, and she was super fucked up, I've had nothing but train wreck relationships that end horribly. So, I really have no close relationships in my life anymore. Good friends of mine that I've had from the time that I was a kid in school, I've lost 2 of my best friends because of money. One because I loaned him money because we were going to start a food truck business. The guy is an amazing cook, and actually worked at a food truck that made like $400,000 a year. I was like, "Well, why don't we do that?" I was like, "That sounds cool." So I sent him the money to buy a trailer, and never did anything. It was so weird to me how he had everything in front of him to make it happen, but never did. Anyway, it was a big pain in the ass getting my money back from him, so that friendship got fucked up. And then when I first became a realtor out in California, after I sold my first house, one of my childhood friends that I've known for 30 years wanted me to give him money to buy a new car when I wasn't even getting myself a new car. And he was like, I've never asked you for anything before. I'm like, yeah, bro, because I've never had anything before, So anyway, that ruined our relationship. I've had two other really, really close friends of mine that literally have died. One from liver failure and one because he fell off of a platform he was on. So it's like, I was just thinking that if something went bad at the hospital and I was truly like on my deathbed, I would be surrounded by strangers. I would have died with only staff around me. Nobody on the phone, nobody next to me. And that fucking sucks. But that's just how it goes.